and welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and today we're going to slide back into Circle of Life and meander our way a little bit further down this picture. So the plan today is to tackle our grass area and our tent. I loved all the debate going on in the comments about what colour the tent should be, and we'll maybe get our little dear friend sorted out here as well. So just as we have been doing, we're using Faber Castell Polychromos pencils. We are starting with a new combination of pencils today. So as I've done before, I will show you in my swatch book and I'll also put them up on the screen for you as well to help you find an alternative if you don't own the Polychromos pencils. So I'll just pop this over here just now so that I can show you the names here. So for our grassy area, we're going to go with a set of greens, which probably isn't that surprising. So the three colours that I've picked out here is earth green yellowish, May green, and I also have a darker green here which we're going to use for some shadow work, and that is the chromium green opaque. So again, if I just show you in here, this is our May green and our earth green yellowish, so this really is just a darker version of the May green. And then our chromium green opaque is this one here. So you can see there's quite a lot of contrast between these two colours, and that's why I wanted to use that as a starter for our shadow colour. So we'll just zip back over here and we'll get zoomed in a wee bit now. Maybe to about there. Okay, so the idea here is, once again, as always, we'll start with our lightest colour, which is the May green. And I'm just going to blitz this entire area with this pencil. So I'm going to get colour laid down all over the freaking place here. In all the nooks and crannies, you name it, it's going to be down there. I'm going to avoid these leaves at the front here. There are sort of ones poking up throughout the grass, which I'm just going to go over with this May green, but the ones that are sort of framing the edge of the cliff, I'm not going to include them in this. So it is official now, we are into harvest. I was going to say we're in full swing, we're not in full swing, we're just starting. But we've already had a chuckle-worthy incident, which obviously I'm going to share with you guys because I know you like to laugh along at the silly things that go on here. So Mr. Jem had phoned me last night and said, we are starting the combine harvester, so I'm going to be really, really late home. So when you're ready to go to bed, just go to bed. Now when that happens, I have this sort of complex combination of lights that I leave on at various points throughout the house so that he can see his way in, and also so as not to disturb the dogs as well, because if he comes in a certain way, Pip starts barking and that wakes everyone up. And when I say everyone, I mean all the other dogs and me as well. So I was going around setting up my elaborate, lighting the path to the bedroom for him. Also for myself as well, because I'm a terrible sleeper and I hate lights being left on and it bothers me, like I can't get to sleep. I need pitch black to sleep. So I'd sorted all this out and I sent him a message saying which door I had left unlocked for him and that I'd left the lights on so that he would be able to see what he was doing without having to fumble about in the dark. So that was fine. I did not hear him come in. I was well in the land of Nod, and I think it was about 1:15 in the morning when he came in. So I woke up really fresh at 6:10 this morning, and I looked at my phone to see what time it was because I was pretty sure it was almost time to get up. And I had 2 missed calls from Mr. Jem at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it struck me straight away. I thought, oh no, why would he phone me at that time? He was arriving home, and in my intricacies of planning out what lights to leave on for him, I forgot to unlock the door, so I'd actually locked my husband out of the house at 1 o'clock in the morning after telling him I'd leave a door open for him. So of course the next thing, now you got to remember I've literally just opened my eyes and I'm thinking to myself, all the doors were locked, how the hell did he get in the house? So when I got up this morning, I went on a little detective trip round the house to see if I could see anything that had been disturbed or how he got in. I never figured it out though, so I had to ask him when he got up. He was very good humoured about it. He said, if you were awake last night, he says, I was not good humoured about it because I was really tired and I just wanted to go to bed. He said, but yeah. Okay, so we've got this layer down now. I shall return to this story in a moment. I'm going to take my next deepest colour, which is the mid-tone colour, which is the earth green yellowish. Now what we have to do here is we have to think about our shadow areas. Now I still have this pencil line, I've erased it now but I know where it was, because we have to create this shadow that's coming down from up here from our mountain, and because this goes to a point, it makes sense that it's going to come to a point down here as well. So with this mid-tone, I'm going to go and follow my line. Now I have stopped this short, it would probably extend over down onto the water, but just for aesthetics I've decided to stop it here. I'm going to bring that down there, and that's basically the shadow of the peak of this mountain. And as shadows recede from the source point, they tend to get lighter and lighter and almost not fade out, that's the wrong phrase, but they're a lot weaker the further away they are from the light source and whatever's blocking the light source. So with that in mind, I'm going to take this darkest colour and just in at the line of the water here, which is actually quite good because that would tie in with the edge of the water being at the grass anyway. But I'm just going to run this down. And I'm going to build up a really good couple of layers right in at this water's edge here. And as I come out to the part that I've coloured with that mid-tone, I'm just going to lighten up my pressure a little bit, just to give that idea that the shadow is weakening as we come down towards this edge. Now the other shadow we need to think about as well is the one that's cast by the trees. Now I don't think that this would be a long shadow. I'm kind of thinking to myself that the sun's quite high up in the sky compared to where these trees are, so I don't think there would be great big long shadows being cast, you know, like this. And plus as well, it makes things very messy if you're going to do that. So just using the same technique that I've done there. I do want to have a little bit of shadow here, but I'm not going to go crazy with it. So I'm taking my mid-tone pencil again, and where these trees are, and underneath them, I do believe would be a little bit in shadow. And I'm going to bring it out slightly around the base of these trees. So I'm basically going to make like almost like a border round the bottom of these tree trunks. Maybe bring it out a little bit in places. Now again, it's going to be quite an irregular shadow because these tree tops are going to be quite irregular. So you don't have to stick to a uniform like 1/4 of an inch or 1 centimetre or whatever it is you want to measure it in. You can be quite playful with that. I'll just mark that out just now. I'll say we'll avoid our little dear friend just now. He can wait a little. He can just hang out there and chill out a wee bit. Just to give that idea. Again, we want to give the impression that there's stuff going on, but it doesn't need to be absolutely, you know, scientifically perfect. So just the same as before, but I'm going to bring this darkest colour all the way out to where I've just gone with the other colour. And we're just going to start building this up in layers. Again, this is the chromium green opaque that I'm using here, the darkest colour. Yeah, so this morning when I got up and Mr. Gem surfaced eventually, had a bit of a lie-in, obviously, because he was really late in last night. And the first thing I said to him was, well, how did you do it? And he said to me, he said, you are so lucky you weren't awake last night when I came in. I was like, I'm really sorry. So I explained to him what happened, and thankfully he saw the funny side of it, but he said last night, obviously had a sense of humour bypass last night on account of just being really tired. So it transpires, he went round and tried all the windows and all the doors. Now there was a window on the latch, and it's the window into the utility room, which is where my dogs sleep at night. Okay, now that I've got that marked in, I'm going to go back to my lightest colour, which again is this May green, and I'm going to start building up the richness of this grass. So this is just a case of putting down a couple of layers, keeping a light hand, and just start to richen, is that a word? Start to make this look a bit richer. So yes, he tried all the doors, and there was one window on the latch, which is the window into the utility, and unfortunately for him, he realised he was too fat to fit through the window, because it doesn't open all the way out, and he said it didn't open far enough for him to get in. So I said to him, well, you must have got in somehow, and I'm thinking to myself, has he broken something, you know? Did he just get in by brute force? No, he didn't. He climbed on top of the bonnet of my truck, and he stretched over to his office window, because my truck is parked beside his office window. And even Mr. Gem's tall, even him at full stretch, that had been quite a stretch, and he managed to use his his truck key, because he didn't have my truck keys, it was his own truck keys he had, he managed to use the keys to jimmy open the sash window, and that sash window is really, really stiff, which is why we don't put it on a latch, because it's almost impossible to open. So you can imagine him with his knees on the bonnet of my truck and the rest of his body at full stretch, because this window's quite high up off the ground, and him trying to jimmy open this really stiff sash window. I have no idea how he did it, and more to the point, I don't know where he found the strength to do it at that time of night, but he did. We have looked though, and he has damaged the window frame, so that was how he got in. But I thought, for goodness sake. But he said to me, he said, I tried to phone you twice, and he realised after the second time that there was no way that I was in any, I wasn't going to hear the phone ringing. And interestingly, my phone is always on vibrate. I never have it on to ring ever, because I find it very, very intrusive. So there you go, that was Mr. Jem's midnight acrobatics last night trying to get into the house. So I have been warned within an inch of my life that if I ever do that again, even though it was an accident, he's going to be not a very happy camper, and there will be repercussions. I keep thinking to myself, though, I don't know what he would have done if he couldn't get in anywhere. With Mr. Jem, though, he's a farmer, he's resourceful. Where there's a will, there's a way. But yeah, that was... I was like, oops, my bad. So I lost 20 wife points for that last night. Right, I'm going back with my darkest colour now, and I just want to keep building up these shadow areas, and it's so that I don't lose them as I start to build up the vibrancy of the paler greens. So again, just bring this down. And as I'm fading this out here, again, just following the line that I had before, I'm going back in with that mid-tone, the earth green yellowish, and I'm going to start to blend that in there. Really work on this I'll call this the mountain shadow. Really work on this. Get it nice and deep just in this middle area here. God, that's better. I feel as if it should be coming over this way a bit more. Let's extend that out there. Now obviously this looks a bit odd at this moment, but when we add in the shadow over the water as well, it'll help it make more sense in your brain, if you see what I'm saying, because right now it does look kind of strange. Okay, so effectively what I've done here is I've partitioned off this tiny bit of the greenery here. So I'm going back to my lightest pencil and just going to work a little bit more slowly and build this colour up in here a little bit more. There we go. So you can see the difference in richness from here to here. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. Along this water's edge though, I do still want this to be a little bit darker in places. And it's just because if water is sitting next to grass, it's generally a lot more lush. It's usually a lot longer as well, but artistic license here. But even just a subtle little tickle in there with that darkest green just helps bring that out a little bit. I can bring this down. This is my mid-tone pencil again. I'm just filling this little gap. Okay, now this may not come as a surprise to you, but I'm going to whip out my indigo pencil. Bet you weren't expecting that. Where are you, little indigo? So this is the pencil that we've been using throughout. This is no surprise, it's nothing new. And we're just going to add this in to help darken down green colour. Now, because we have used so much green and we're layering up, and that's what Polychromos pencils are great for, you can see it still looks really green. And it's given us this lovely dark shadow. But the greens that we've used underneath, because we've put plenty of layers down, that's still shining through. Fabulous. I might even bring this out a little bit further just because I can. I'm not pressing here at all, I'm just letting the pencil dance over the paper. All by itself. Lovely jubbly. Okay, so that technique that we've just done, we're going to do the same thing all the way over here now. So now that I've tackled the shadow, I'm actually going to go back over here just because I'm used to working right to left. So the harvest brain is fully engaged. Well, clearly it's not, I've locked my husband out the house. But I'm really getting into that sort of dreadful way of thinking and meal planning, and there's lots of Tupperware boxes involved and things that you can eat without needing to heat it up and things that don't spoil in the heat, etc, etc. So I can't even say that I'm embracing it. Under duress, I am preparing for the onslaught, but we've got a bit of a kind of false start. The weather is fair today, and it's to be like this tomorrow, and then it's to rain, so we're going to have a reprieve for probably about a week, 10 days, something like that, and then we'll be starting proper. So you'll also be pleased to know that since the last video, our last cow has calved, and as predicted, she is still a psychopath, but her baby is absolutely gorgeous. It's a little girl, and mum and baby are absolutely a-okay, so we're just leaving them to do their thing, which is what we tend to do anyway. That's what we like to do. We don't like to intervene if we can help it. I've talked quite a lot about working a section at a time and really partitioning areas of your image off, and I'm starting to do it mentally already. I'm kind of taking the backside of our deer, and what a lovely derriere it is too, and I've kind of drawn an imaginary line down here, so I'm just going to work in this little section here and get it to sort of match up similar to what's going on over there. So again, if you're a person that feels quite overwhelmed by complicated artworks or detailed artworks when it comes to colouring, or even when it comes to anything else for that matter, this is the way forward, and I do this all the time. I tend not to do it for the reasons, this is the indigo pencil, I tend not to do it for those reasons though. It's more if I can put things into bite-sized chunks, because I'm always pushed for time, it means, you know, in my head I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not going to take me any more than 5 minutes. I can finish that bit, it's a sensible place to stop, and when I come back I'm not going to be thinking to myself, oh, how, you know, what did I do there, or how did I join that up, or how, you know, it's just like a natural place to stop, and that works really well for me, because quite often I've maybe only got snippets of 10 or 15 minutes or half an hour where I can do these things, so that works really, really well for me. It's also really handy if you are, if you are a busy person, everyone's busy, but you know, if you've got things that cause sudden distractions like children or animals, or if you have a job maybe where you're on call, this is a great tactic to employ if you still want to enjoy your colouring. Obviously, you're not going to have the same pencil hours to put in, so it's going to take you a lot longer to finish things, but it just stops that sort of, and sometimes as well, when you know you don't have a lot of time, you think to yourself, I don't really want to start something because I'm not really going to have time. This is the way to get around that. And I've done that with several really complex colouring pages, like Kirby Rosanna's pages, and it's great, it works great. So I'm going back to my lightest colour again, my May Green, so I'm going to bring my grass up to speed here again, and this is sharpen. It's as if these pencils blunt themselves. Like, is there a little pencil monster that comes out at night and uses my pencils? Because every time I come back, I seem to need to sharpen them. I think I've got pencil monster. I was just about to say, I wonder what the pencil monster looks like. Maybe we should do a video designing the pencil monster, create a character. That would be great in a children's book as well, wouldn't it? A story about a pencil monster. Oh. Right, you heard it here first. So I'm just starting in between these leaves here and just working my way out. So using that scumbling motion, that nice circular motion, and just a medium pressure. Excuse me, Mr. Deer Derriere, don't mind me. Wonder if that tickles. And then the same in here. Yeah, pencil monster. Oh, that's set my wee brain ticking over now. Oh, it's dangerous. As if I don't have enough ideas already. One of my friends asked me a little while ago, she said, do you ever struggle to decide what you're going to do for videos? I have the opposite problem. I have more ideas than ideas. That was a good one. I've got more ideas than I could ever execute in a lifetime. And a lot of my ideas do tend to fall by the wayside because I get other ideas in my head and I'm terrible for that. And that's why I'm a chronic list writer, because I write all these things down in case I forget them. But I can't ever see me running out of ideas for videos. I do like to get input from the cavers, from you guys, because I like to get that balance of things that I like to do, but also things that you guys want to see as well. It's a bit of like to and fro and a bit of coming and going. Okay, so there you go. That's that little section finished, and you can see it looks quite rich, it looks quite lush. And I'm quite happy that it's kind of matching up with what's going on here. So I'm going to move over now, and I think for me, the next little bite-sized chunk would just literally be the length of that deer. Now that doesn't seem like an awful lot, but that's kind of the point. I'm going to build up with the darkest green. I'm just going to build up this shadow area around this tree a little bit more. It's not dramatic enough for my liking. Put a little bit of that in there. Now our deer is probably casting a little bit of a shadow. It's not going to be much, so I'm just going to use like a zigzag, like a back and forth motion, and just under his little feet, I'm just going to put this sort of jagged line in. And I'm going to squint it slightly down into the right, because if we think about the light source, and these lines are telling you, what direction it's going in, so it's coming this way. So therefore, if he's casting a shadow, he's going to kind of be casting it back a little bit. Now that you know, we're kind of getting into nitty gritty here, but if you're going to do it, you might as well, you know, you might as well do it. So we'll just pop that under layer. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. Wee ziggy zaggy line. And I'm just going to go straight over it just now with the indigo so that it doesn't get lost with everything else that's, you know, all the other pencils that we're smooshing about here. So let's do that. And that's just one of those nice little touches. I mean, it's not going to make or break your picture, but it's just a nice thing to add in. While I've got the indigo in my hand, I'm going to fill in this little bit at the back here. And we'll do this wee bit under his belly here as well. So this part where I'm putting the shadow in is not the shadow being cast by his belly, obviously, it's the shadow being cast from round the trunk of the tree. So back to my mid-tone green, which for me is the earth green yellowish. And then I can go back to my May green, my lightest green, and fill in the gaps. So you don't really want to be blending your shadow in with the grass colour. The shadow needs to be quite defined, although it should be quite soft at the edges. That's why I use that ziggy zaggy motion rather than drawing a straight line. And that gives that idea of just softening it up a little bit as well. I don't know if any of you watched any of the Olympics. I absolutely love watching the Olympics. I've been absolutely fascinated this year by the climbing. Climbing is a new Olympic sport, and watching they do like a speed run, so there's two sides to it, and the handholds are like a mirror image of each other, so you do a time trial up one side and then you do it on the other side, but when you're doing it, you're not racing the person that's with you, but two climbers do it at the same time. I think that's just to make it more exciting and also speed up the process. And then obviously they switch sides and they run up the opposite sides because the handholds are mirror images of themselves. And I was watching these guys climbing up this wall, however many meters high. These guys are like running up these walls. And I mean, they're literally like, it's like vertical running. It is absolutely amazing. And they're just like monkeys, you know, climbing branches. It's absolutely fascinating. So I sat and watched that for about an hour and a half. I was like, wow, this is great. I've always liked sport though. I'm quite an active person, although right now I'm not as active as I should be. But I used to play a lot of volleyball, I used to play hockey, played a little bit of football when I was really young. And I'm also fascinated by things like gymnastics because I don't know how they get their bodies to do that. And I love watching it. It's amazing to watch. So I'm right into watching the Olympics. And I'll watch anything on the Olympics. Like, I've been watching the weightlifters and I know nothing about weightlifting, but it's great to watch. Taekwondo, that's really complicated as well. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has been watching. If you have been watching the Olympics, what's your favourite sport to watch? Mine is naturally athletics because I like to run. And again, not that I've run for quite some time, but I absolutely love watching athletics. Back to my darkest green now. I'm going back into these trees and I'm just going to treat this section as a whole section just to get it joined up. And I take great pleasure in screaming at the TV during all the races. So I have thoroughly enjoyed the Olympics this year. Absolutely loved it. And it's nice to have something like almost like a sort of escape from everything that's been going on. And it's been quite weird watching it though because all the stadium... Okay, I'm going to grab my indigo now. I was especially excited about the women's 800 metres because, well, there's quite a lot of there's 3 British athletes in that, but one of the young girls that's running is from Ayrshire, which is where I'm from. So I got a little bit patriotic for my county there. Unfortunately, she didn't do so well, but she actually finished 4th in the final. That's like the most insulting position to finish in, obviously, because you're just outside the medals. And I felt so sorry for her. She was crestfallen because she got overtaken by one of our teammates who obviously was also running. And I think she was a bit kind of shocked by that. So it was a shame for her. But yeah, that was one of those ones I was like sort of jumping up and down and like screaming at the screen a little bit. I'm like, come on! I get far too over animated with stuff like that. Far too over animated. It's weird because I don't consider myself that patriotic. Obviously because I've got Italian lineage as well. You know, when people think of Scottish people being patriotic, it's kind of like yeah, like a Braveheart moment, and everyone's got their face painted and stuff. I don't get that sort of sense of patriotism. And again, it's probably just because I have got that sort of mixed background. But I get equally excited for the Italian athletes as I do for the Scottish ones. So maybe I'm just, I've got a foot in each camp. Okay, happy with those shadows again. So back to my May green, and we'll just chunter away with this. I'm going to turn this slightly, just so my hand's not resting on the part that I've already coloured. So yeah, thoroughly enjoy the athletics. Today's filming's a little bit out of the ordinary as well. This is the first time in a while that I've filmed late in the day. It's 6:15 in the evening. You know, I've been filming in the mornings instead. Just the way things worked out today, but I've got not one, not two, but 3 unwell dogs, and it's all of them's different things. So I felt a bit kind of like henpecked today. So I spent a lot of time sorting dogs out and making sure they're okay. Pip's on the mend. Pip is a chronic tea leaf, and she will eat more or less anything she finds, and I found her chewing on a very decomposed rabbit, and needless to say it gave her an upset stomach, which I was alerted to when I opened the door and the smell hit me in the face the other morning. So she didn't seem to be poorly for it though, and she doesn't usually. Like, this has happened before, and I'm very wary of it, and I try to make sure that I don't leave her to go and find things to eat, but every now and then she just slips away from me. But she's all right in herself, but I was just making sure that she's been drinking plenty of water, giving her probiotics for her stomach and all that stuff. So her stomach was making some seriously funky noises today. So, but she seems to be fine now, thankfully. There we go. Right, I think that side's finished. Quite happy with that. So let's chunter over here a wee bit. And we can carry on. Now, there's not really going to be an awful lot of this pale green here, because again, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some sort of shadow cast here by the tent. So I'm going to grab my mid-tone green again. So my earth green yellowish. And I think I'm just going to try and map out where these shadow areas are. That's always a good idea. So I'm going to take that down round there. We'll say that there's a wee bit, you know, from the trees. And then if the sun's coming this way, our tent shadow's going to be over here. Yeah, right, let's make that. Now that you can see, even the way I'm moving my pencil, this is really rough. It doesn't need to be nice and neat and tidy. It's a shadow. It's okay to have a shadow like that. And then if we come up round here, then we're just going to have this little shadow area around our trees again, like so. And that joins up there, lovely jubbly. So onto my darkest green now. So I'm looking for inspiration for myself. I am so painfully aware of the fact that I have not been out running, and that I am spending 12-14 hours a day sitting in a chair. And so I'm trying to get back to eating properly and just looking after myself a bit better. I would like to get back out running. I am too heavy to run just now. I've got an old knee injury, and over a certain weight, if I run on it, I'll just blow it out and I'll end up in, you know, worse than I started. So I'm trying to, I've got like a weight goal in mind to get back to, and it's basically a weight that I know I'll be safe running on my knee. But I'm really struggling for inspiration at lunchtime. Now, bearing in mind I'm at home all day, I have my kitchen at my disposal, but I don't have a lot of time to stand and, you know, make a wonderful gourmet meal for myself. And I'm just so uninspired by lunchtime. So if anybody has any suggestions for tasty lunches that don't take too long to put together, I would love to hear from you. The only thing I can't eat is nuts. I have a nut allergy, so nothing with nuts in. But I just end up either eating a salad, which I'm kind of like, I don't want to eat a salad. Although I do like olives, I always put olives in my salad. Or in the winter, it's like tins of soup. or, you know, homemade soup that I've frozen myself. So if anybody's got any exciting ideas or something that you really love to eat at lunchtime, I would love to hear about it, because I just feel like I need to get on top of it and just deal with it, basically. Okay, I'm going to go in with my indigo now. Oh my. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. But I just, it's just gotten ridiculous, because I was back running for a wee while, and literally since we moved, I haven't run at all. And I'm desperate to run round here because there's so many cool places to run. But I am not fit enough to run anywhere right now, and my poor knee just wouldn't take it. But it's amazing how much a sedentary job affects things like that. Because obviously, I mean, I'm still eating. Well, I was still eating the way I would eat when I'm really active, and I eat a lot. Like, do you know what I mean? This is the old Italian gene kicking in. I eat a lot. And I've realised that I've piled on weight because I'm still eating like I'm burning all these calories every day, and I'm not, because I'm sitting on my fat ass. So really need to do something about it. And the thing is, I really enjoy being active. I enjoy being outside. The exercise part of it isn't a problem for me. Squeezing it in is, but doing the actual exercise, I'm always motivated to exercise. But I just need to stop eating like a pig until such times as I am very active again. So, because there was a point I was thinking about that. It was weird how you think about things in the shower. Does anybody else have their contemplative moments in the shower? Because that's when I seem to have mine. And I was thinking about it the last time I was in the shower, and I was like, at one point, I was running like 40 and 50 miles a week. And okay, I wasn't working as many hours, well, I wasn't working as many hours as I'm working now, but more to the point, I wasn't working as many hours sitting at a desk because I was working out on the farm. So, and I'm thinking to myself, well, no wonder you've piled on weight. If you were burning that many calories doing all that and now you're sitting on your ass, well, you know, you shouldn't really be surprised that's happened. So I've got no one but myself to blame for it. But do you know, it was like an epiphany. I'm going back to my May Green now, my lightest green, and I'm just going to fill all this in between. I'm actually quite liking the way this shadow's turned out. It's there, but it's not too, you know, it doesn't like draw your eye away from the rest of the picture. It's not too prominent. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to getting back to that point, and I hope I can get back there relatively soon before the weather starts to get really crappy. I always tell the story, and I think for my older cavers I would have told you this story before, so if I have, forgive me. But one of my favourite things used to be is I used to see, you know, you'd say to you, oh, you like to go running? I'm like, oh, I love running. And I'd say to them, I ran to my Weight Watchers meeting once, and they kind of give you this weird look, and they're like, a cool story, bro. And then I tell them that my Weight Watchers meeting was 16 miles away from my house, and then they give you that look as if to say, have you got something wrong with you? And the answer to that is probably yes. And I did that for fun. I literally did it for fun, just to see if I could do it or not. And the terrain was fairly up and down as well. It wasn't just a flat run, because again, on a farm, I was on a sheep farm at that point, and people didn't, you know, if you're not that way inclined, well, with any kind of sport or exercise, people don't get that. They're like, you've got something wrong with you. So I'd like to get back to that. I really would. Because I feel so good when I'm running, and I have got bags of energy, bags of the stuff, and I also sleep a lot better as well, but I have to do a lot of running before I sleep better. I think I literally just tire myself out. But yeah, when I was running those big mileages every week, I slept like a baby most of the time. It was brilliant. But again, it's finding the time to do that, because you know, 40 and 50 miles a week, you know, that's not like a 20-minute run every day. It's a lot of big runs. So it's I'm going to have to try and like shoehorn that in somewhere, but it's something that I feel that once I get back into the swing of it, I will prioritise, because it's something that is really important to me. I don't like being overweight. I don't like being fat. I've never been skinny. I have never been a skinny girl. I've always been, my dad calls me tanky, like as in built like a tank. I'm short and I'm stocky and I'm muscular, but unfortunately there's a huge layer of fat over the top of that just now as well. And I just want to get back to that, you know, like really strong, fit and sort of defined body, not the sort of flobby, like, you know, like mummy tummy type belly that I've got just now. Even though I'm not a mummy, I don't even have that as an excuse. Anyway, enough rattling on about my physique. Okay, let's take a wee zoom out, I think. Just get this in context. And you can see that grass is popping out beautifully next to everything else that's going on. I'm just taking my darkest green again, and I'm just going to go round the side of this river a little bit again, like I did over the other side. Just a few wee a few wee squiggles here and there, just to add a bit of dimension. Now the other thing you can do with this as well is these little leaves that have been drawn in, if you wanted to sort of flick in a bit of colour with this darkest pencil, maybe not everyone, maybe just an odd one, you could do that too. Just pick a few of them out, and again it's just adding another little bit of detail, another little bit of interest to your picture. Okay, let's talk about this tent. I'm sticking with my original plan. I want it to be red because we are using, you know, like all the sort of earthy colours here, and I know we kind of have a bit of pink and stuff up here, but I wanted something to pop out somewhere, and I think the red and the blue of the river when we get there is going to be... So we've got another set of pencils now. Okay, so the lightest colour in this set of 3 pencils is Scarlet Red. My mid-tone is Deep Red. And finally, for some shadows, I have Red Violet. Again, if I just bring this here and I shall show you. So here is the Scarlet Red, so that's my lightest colour. And here is the Deep Red. And then the Red Violet's down here. So we're going to get a good bit of contrast in with that as well. So as always, lightest colour first, all the way over, entire tent, just over the whole area. Let's go. Now this is going to be a little bit more interesting because this is a geometric shape, therefore it has planes, and where there are planes we have huge differences in shading and colour. Everything else has been quite gradual because it's, well, I'll say we've had some fairly jutty out moments here, haven't we? I'm just making this up now, but it's much more obvious with a shape like this tent. So we'll zoom back in a little bit now. Just before we go any further as well, to tackle the inside of the tent, I'm going to take my darkest colour, which is the Red Violet, and I'm going to use that because I would imagine that the inside fabric of the tent is the same colour as the outside, so that's going to be pretty dark in there unless somebody's got light on. So use a little flicky motion just to blend it out into the grass colour, and then I'm going to grab, surprise surprise, the dark indigo again, and I'm just going to build that in very lightly. Just build that up slowly, just to darken that down a bit in there and make it look like it's, you know, it is the inside of it. Again, minor detail, don't fuss too much over it, just do it. There we go. Okay, so thinking about the planes of our tent and how the light is going to hit them, this side, there's a possibility that the sunlight is going to hit this side, and I'm going to take that possibility and run with it because it's probably going to be the only part of the tent that I'm going to get to use the Scarlet Red on, and I really like this colour. So that is literally my reasoning for doing this. So I am going to start building up this colour here. So just get another layer down. Oh, this is such a nice colour. It stands out so well against the green. And now bearing in mind that we're kind of trees and mountains and stuff in the way, I'm just going to jump straight to the Red Violet, and just down in this bottom corner here, I'm just going to pop a little bit of that down. Just in the corner, here and here. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And it's just to add a little bit of interest. And then I'm just going to build up this colour because it is fabulous. And I'm just leaving a tiny little sliver down the top there that's not going to have another layer of pencil on it. And you can see it's almost giving me like a highlight. Very subtle though, because we don't actually want a highlight because that is the highlighted side. So if we think about this one here, this is at a slight angle coming more this way. So we want to go a bit darker. So in this instance, take your lightest colour. We'll put another layer of pencil down there. And then we're going to go to our mid-tone, which is the deep red. And we're going to go down over the top of that. And then we're going to take our indigo pencil, because there's a bit of an overhang there. So if we flick in a few lines of the indigo, that just gives that subtle indication that it's hanging over the top. And I'll maybe add a little line down this side as well, just because I can. Okay, moving on to these front areas here. We want to keep this a little bit darker, so I'm going to stick with my medium tone pencil, which is the deep red here. And I'm just going to fill this panel in here. And I'm going to go over it with another layer. And then I'm going to take my Red Violet, and I'm just going to add in a wee tickle of that in there, because why not? And then we'll do the same on this side. Yeah, so I'd stopped the story about the dogs and not being well. Jock is constipated, so he has the opposite problem to Pip. Now I'm just going to stick with the deep red here, build up another layer. So we've been giving him things to try and get him going, but it means that every time he goes I've got to go with him to see if he's actually going to go, which is just delightful. I mean, it's my favourite part of my day. And Woo, the Jack Russell, has yet another ear infection, apparently very common in older dogs with tight ear canals, so basically small dogs, terriers, etc, etc. So we're struggling with her. Drops in her ears twice a day. She doesn't like it. She flaps her head about. She gets more of the drops on me than she does in her ears. You know how it goes. So yes, things are just delightful just now. Okay, so let's think about these panels around here. This one in here is going to be the darkest panel because it's furthest away from the light source. I know I'm jumping about here, but bear with me. So if I use the red violet, which is our darkest colour, and put that down first, and then go straight in with my indigo pencil again, and go over the top of that. There we go. So this is kind of looking similar to the inside, which we decided was a dark area. This next panel round, we're going to use our red violet again. And we're going to put a couple of layers of that down. And just to give it that slightly more reddish tint, I'm taking my deep red, so my mid-tone red, and just one layer of that over the top makes all the difference. And it means I can still use my indigo pencil again to indicate this overhang. So if I just draw a little line along there. And then when we come round to this panel here, we're going to stick with our deep red and we'll pop a couple of layers of that down. Oh, moo. I never know with those moos whether they're picked up by the microphone because the time I look up at the audio levels, they've stopped mooing. So I don't know whether they're picked up or not, but that was pretty loud. Calves are getting big and cheeky now and they're also getting very vocal. They're funny. Okay, so a couple of layers of the deep red and just a tickle, and I do mean a tickle, of the violet, the red violet, sorry. Teeny weeny wee light layer over the top of that. Just enough to differentiate between this panel and this panel. Alright. And again the same thing, we can use our indigo pencil here. Just to little line in there. Superb. Okay, now this is interesting because technically this should all be really dark, but I think because it's coming round like this, we can kind of play about with it. But we can use our panels here as our reference as to how much of which colour to bring round. So again, starting with this mid-tone red, because we didn't use any of the scarlet in this section here, and this is kind of lining up with that. So starting with the deep red. And I'm going to bring a layer of that all the way down and round here, all the way over, all the way over, all the way over. And then as I mentioned before, I actually like to start with the dark colours. So I'm going to go to the red violet and down in this corner, so I'm starting in the bottom left here. I'm going to put down a layer of the red violet and I'm going to bring it up all the way up to the peak. Just build up a couple of layers there. And then I'm going to bring it round slowly and start to lighten my pressure up as I head towards the right here. And then I can use my deep red and just start to blend in those edges and bring that colour round. So you can see there's a very subtle shift there, and we can make that more obvious if we want. It's up to you whether you want to do that or not. I quite like that idea, so I'm going to whack down another couple of layers of red violet. Just down that side though. Maybe bring a wee bit down there for fun. But really build that up. Not going to get much more pencil down on top of that now. Just use my deep red now to even this out and build up the colour on the rest of the roof. Someone was talking about circus tents, weren't they? Under the last video. Now once again, if we zoom out, which is the YouTube equivalent of taking a step back, you can see how subtle that is. And I really, really like that. But I just want this corner a little bit darker, so I'm going to use my indigo pencil. Good old indigo. And I'm just going to sneak a tiny little bit of that in. And I'm going very carefully here so I don't take it too far. As we know, it's easier to add in than take away, especially with coloured pencil. Okay, and then I'm just going to add in another little bit at the top there as well. Okay. I think I'll leave my little dear friend and whatnot, dear friend, till next time. I think this video's been long enough today, and it's, again, a good place to stop, because why not? Okay, everybody, that will do us for today. Once again, I want to thank you very much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. It's nice to just chill out and hang out and chat and do a bit of colouring every now and then. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and please let me know if you are tackling this picture yourself. I'd love to know if you're colouring along or maybe you're heading in your own direction with it. Either way, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. So all that remains is to say, please stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll see you back in the cave really soon for another video. Have a good day, everyone. Bye bye for now.